to a whole new season of 405. My name's Rex, that's W-R-E-C-K-S. And today I want to talk about a recent news story, kind of a follow-up to my last video. And the news story is that several police chiefs and police officers have recently contacted Google regarding their Waze app, and specifically the police reporting feature. Now, if you remember my last video I did on last season, I discussed the Waze app and how to use it to avoid getting a speeding ticket, as well as other various ways of doing that. It seems that CBS News was researching for this story with the police officers recently and came across my last video and asked to interview me. So let's go ahead and watch that interview and then we'll talk about it.
Nearly 50 million drivers across the U.S. now use Waze to avoid traffic and find the road less traveled. Adam Hoggett uses it to cut 10 minutes off his Los Angeles commute, but he discovered the app could also help him avoid speeding tickets.
Here we go. Waze is showing me that there's a police up ahead.
He posted a video online to teach other drivers how to use Waze to find speed traps.
See something ahead, and bingo. Somebody got pulled over. There you go. I guess that's proof positive that Waze works.
The Waze map is full of little icons. These little mustached men with blue hats represent the location where a user has spotted a police officer. If you click on it, you can find out exactly where and when they were located. And that's exactly what concerns law enforcement officers.
You have to constantly weigh what is the value of information you're putting out versus the risk that it creates.
Los Angeles Police Chief Charlie Beck recently wrote a letter to Google, which owns Waze, claiming the app poses a danger to the lives of police officers in the United States. He asked the company to disable the police alert function after reports surfaced that Ismail Brinsley used the Waze app to track police before he killed 2 officers in New York City last month. Even though investigators do not believe the app was directly linked to the crime, some in law enforcement are concerned that Waze can help criminals.
It becomes a tool for the people who will break the law.
This week, the National Sheriff's Association asked to meet with Google.
We want to make it harder for every criminal to commit a crime. And everything that we can do to slow them down and stop them is in our best interest.
Google hasn't announced plans to make any changes to Waze. In a statement, the company said many of its police partners support the app because most users tend to drive more carefully when they believe law enforcement is nearby.
Does it change your driving pattern? Sure, yeah, I'm sure it does. Definitely give the speedometer a quick glance and probably slow down when that happens.
Adam Hoggett says police are already exposed on the road.
Oh, here's one right here.
Waze just helps him avoid getting a ticket from them.
There he is. Now, if I hadn't been paying attention, I, could have found myself going a little too fast.
For CBS This Morning, Carter Evans, Los Angeles.
So I have a few comments about that interview. First, a lot of what we discussed in the interview, unfortunately, was not shown in the final piece. And I understand that they were taking the parts that they needed to make their story. But there was a lot, I think, of pertinent information that we discussed. Partially the fact that we drove around for almost 2 hours before we were able to find a police officer using Waze. Because we're trying to demonstrate the police reporting feature on Waze, we wanted to drive by a police officer to demonstrate how it worked. Well, we looked on the map and we found several, and we tried to drive by them, and every single time they were either gone or just weren't there in the first place. So what we found out really was that it's actually a lot harder to find a police officer, to track down a police officer using Waze, than it is to simply slow down and avoid getting a speeding ticket, which is its intended purpose. So I think the argument that the police chief made that it's putting police officers' lives in danger is a little bit ridiculous. And I think, if you follow that through to its logical conclusion, then you can just throw everyone in jail and they'll be perfectly safe. But the problem is, there's always, for that safety, there's always a certain amount of freedom that has to be sacrificed. And the freedom is the freedom of speech. Waze is an app that allows drivers to communicate with each other. We can let each other know about road hazards. We can let each other know about heavy traffic, which I'm in right now. We can let each other know if there's a police ahead, and we can then use that information to check our speed and make sure that we're driving accordingly. So it makes the roads safer, and I think it's kind of ridiculous for the police to want to remove that feature simply on the unfounded basis that it makes them unsafe. There was a story recently where a man tracked down 2 police officers and killed them in New York, and the mainstream media reported that he had been using Waze. Well, what they didn't necessarily say outright is that he didn't actually use Waze to stalk them. There's no proof that he actually used Waze in that way, just the fact that he had been a user of Waze previously. So they can't even really make that claim that particular instance, that Waze had anything to do with that. And even if it had, they can't make the argument that anything would have changed had he not had that feature on Waze. So like I said, Waze is just a technology for communication. It's for drivers to communicate with other drivers when there's a hazard on the road or a police officer ahead, or when there's heavy traffic, so that they can go around it. That makes the traffic less congested. Actually, over the last year, I estimate that I've saved at least 25 hours by using Waze to route me around traffic. And that's a conservative estimate. So that, over the last year, is 25 hours that my vehicle has not been on the road congesting it. And that's just me. So imagine, all the people that are using Waze, the amount of, traffic that is actually saving all of us. I think we can't really, it's not something we can visibly see, but I can tell you for sure that Waze is actually relieving traffic, and it's making the roads safer. Well, here's my exit. I hope you enjoyed your ride today on the 405. If you did, please hit that like button down below and subscribe to get new episodes as they come out. And I'll see you next time on the 405.